This podcast is sponsored by Arona Wine Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Visit parkersmarkwines.com.
So I'm Julien Fayard from Fayard Winemaking.
If you had the ability to change something in the wine industry right now, what would that be?
The American wine industry or the global wine?
Well, I'm going to ask you to do both if you like.
Let's start with the U.S. I think there's need to be more room as a craft on a large scale. So how to explain that? It might look ambiguous in a way, but naturally, like the French do it really well with the négociant wines. Like you buy a Jadot, you know it's a négociant house, but they're craft. So they have a large scale, large footprint, but they're craft. And I think in the U.S. we have too many big producers that have a average product. So there's people like Mondavi and Robert Mondavi as a person, or like Beaulieu, that have helped bring wine to the masses. And then you have people like Robert Parker that help raise the luxury level and the recognition at the national or international level. Now we need the average drinker, I'm saying $13 a bottle, 15, 18, like that person, to find really well-made wine that are not manufactured.
And welcome to the longest-running wine podcast online.
I think
this week we have a very special podcast focusing on the future
because they
of
don't
the wine
develop
business.
market. They'll look at a brand that is taken off and they'll capture it, but then they don't know how to change the pattern. Globally, the wine consumption can be massive if some cultures awake. So we'll have, for example, China, India. India is further than China. So those, I think, when they wake up, they will rise to a next level and will absorb. So they are developing their own as well. They're developing their own production. There's great wines from there. But then you get the massive guys like France, Italy, Australia. Those are flooding the market. Dial those back and let the other one grow their own culture of wine, because then people will drink.
I'm Florencia Palmaz with Palmaz-Vineyard. So it's interesting. So the second you asked me that question, right, what would I change? I immediately think introspectively, like what would I tell my younger self? Rather than try to change the outside world. Mm-hmm. Because I can't control them. And I got to be honest with you, a long time ago, I spent way too much time, like I said, I never stopped being afraid of this business. I have so much respect for it. I never stopped feeling like, what else can I do to make this better? What else is there? What's next for us to understand and refine and get better at? And I'm still in that mode. I will always be. But I would tell my younger self, relax a little. It's going to be okay. I was very hung up early on in focusing on what I would never be. Like I would never be, a bright Bing cherry-driven, high-alcohol, sexy Cabernet back in 2005 when that's everything that everyone wanted to drink. And it was like literally telling me I should be a size 2 and blonde. Like, it's just never going to happen. And I should have told my younger self, you're spinning your wheels, feeling like that's going to be important forever. So now I think back, it's like, wow, I've seen enough cycles. I've seen enough cycles in the Cabernet. I've seen enough cycles in Chardonnay. I've seen even enough cycles in how operationally people run their businesses that I'm like, yeah, it's going to be okay. Just keep on doing your thing. Don't stop driving to make our thing better. But don't sweat it. Don't sweat whatever other people are doing. I'm truly, I know what you're talking about, and I know that there's a lot of talk in this press about, like, the drama out there, and you see it in the auction. You and I both saw it. You see a lot of fear in a lot of people's eyes about the industry, and I got to be honest with you, I'm not worried. I'm not worried for 1 minute, because this is just another cycle that those who are doing good work and who are authentic and who are patient, we're going to all ride right past this wave.
Hi, my name is Rob Sinton. I'm the owner and winemaker of Starfield Vineyards. I mean, probably consumer sentiment. I still think it's the healthiest alcohol out there. You know, I do think wine is fun. I don't think it's been marketed as super fun for a long time. I mean, obviously, it's not all entirely the fault of wineries and marketers, but I mean, clearly there is some disconnect between consumers and the way that wine is presented. And I personally feel like it's a super fun thing, and that people can approach it, and it's not meant to be scary. You know, and people who work at wineries and winemakers and people who serve at wineries are there to answer questions, right. And they're more than happy. My staff is more than happy to educate you. If you flag me down, I'm more than happy to talk even longer than I'm talking right now about wine. But it's, you know, I remember my wife was one of the people that I think was... She drank box wine. She was like, "Are you sure you want to marry someone who drinks box wine?" And I was like, "I assure you, there's more to life than box wine and what than wine in general. And you know, I love you, and we should be married." And so, one of the first times I managed to get her sort of out of her self-conscious head was. I had all my wines in front of her, and I was like, just start tasting wine. Like, give me like a one-word answer of like what comes to your mind. And she just starts going through, it's wine, it's wine, it's wine, it's wine. And she got to the Cinsault. She got to the Cinsault, and she's like, so like, do you put the strawberries in? Like, how do the strawberries get into the wine? And I was like, that's the fun thing, is that there are no strawberries in the wine. It's just grapes. She's like, I don't believe you. And I was like, I swear there are no. I mean, some people might put strawberries into their wine, but I don't know who they are. But you know, but yeah, it's all grapes. And so that was like a really fun thing to see, this sort of aha moment with her. And now she's like, now I trust her palate a lot of the time more than I trust my palate. So, I believe that, yeah. So yeah, no, it's a really fun thing, and people are excited to like maybe be there for other consumers' aha moments with wine, for that great bottle. And, you know, you're not going to have a lot of great bottles during a lifetime, I feel like. There are a lot of good bottles, but, like, the ones that sort of are seared into your memory are, like, few and far between, I would say. So, but they're unforgettable. It's unforgettable. And it's just a fun thing, and the more you taste wine, the more likely you'll have those kinds of experiences, so...
My name is Frits Hatton. I am co-owner of Arietta Wine with my partner, Karen.
If you had the ability to change something in the wine industry with the way things are right now, this being February of 2026, what would that be?
I would actually make it less formal. One of my ideals or of what a great wine experience is, or was in the 70s, is to go into the winemaker or the vintner's house, sit at the kitchen counter, and taste wine with them. Nice. Just 2, 3, 4 people. Yeah. You get to know someone very well. You understand the background of the wine, and you just enjoy each other's company. Because so much about wine is helping people enjoy each other's company and getting to know each other. The socialization aspect is, well, so I reduced the definition of wine, or defined the highest purpose of wine at one point, is to serve as a catalyst for socialization, bringing people together. I can't imagine how many people of entirely different political persuasion I've tasted with and gotten to know and befriended over the years because of wine.
Hi, I'm Lisa Redmon, owner of Redmon Wines in the Napa Valley, 25 years in the business and a 45-year local. Sometimes the snobbery around it. So I think that people should be able to visit and feel comfortable to ask questions, because sometimes wine is intimidating to talk about. And I don't know when that started or why that started, but I have a policy of this is your chance. You got the owner of a wine brand in front of you, and ask any questions you want. And I have a real passion for helping people understand why they like certain wines, why they like certain regions, and asking whatever questions they need to do to understand that.
Well, how do you go about that when you're talking to somebody, explaining something is, we all know about terroir, but not other people don't really always understand that. How do you go about that?
Okay, so I'm a big one with props.
Okay, good.
So I bring out the map of Napa. I show the appellations. I bring out a soils map. I bring out a topography map. So all the things that kind of help them understand. If we're talking about Mount Veeder, we're talking about high up on a mountain with big rocky soil, those sorts of things. If we're talking about a valley floor, we're talking about something really different. And so as we move through each one of my wines, which are all very different, we talk about terroir and why those characteristics are different based on where they come from.
Hi, my name is Jesse Fox. I'm the winemaker at Sequoia Grove Winery. I think what I love about wine and food and that whole experience is really to kind of, one, make that a huge focus, but I think accessibility, is something so important. And although there is this thing about luxury wine in terms of creating a certain level of prestige that has really helped the industry allow it to achieve the success it has over the last 100 years, over the last whatever, kind of in Napa Valley, 40, 50 years. I think if we can kind of maintain that ability to provide accessibility to our customers, I think is so important. And I feel like I've always felt that way, even if it's in restaurants or when I worked in restaurants as a chef. I think creating that hierarchy from front of house to back of house, I always felt was wrong. I worked in kitchens that were like that, and I felt that in some wineries I worked in as well.
You have a different point of view, yeah.
Yeah, the winemaker's better than the salesperson. The reason why I went to Cornell and I wanted that business back around is because I wanted to understand the holistic picture. Because I really believe there's a lot of great winemakers in the Napa Valley. I hope to be considered one of those, but I think the key to success is not just having a great wine. It's about having a great brand, having a great team, working together and providing those experiences for our customers. So we can't, discount any customer that comes in the door. And I love offering some kind of great wine to a customer that might never try that and might never buy that. But I think back to me, I didn't come from that world, but I had my experience that was like, oh my God, it was like a light that went on. And if I can provide that light for one of our customers, I think that is the end goal for what I want.
Wesley Steffens, Vineyards 7 and 8. What would I change in the wine business if there's one thing I could change? I think, again, we talked about we don't want to get too political, but I think having the whole valley come together to truly realize what we're all here for, and that is the love of farming, the love of hospitality, the love of creating something special that we can share, bring visitors to the valley, and sort of removing some of the barriers that make that more difficult than it needs to be would certainly make our lives easier, and it would certainly make it easier for us to welcome people to the valley in different levels of experiences, because at the end of the day, that is what we are all here for. And if we're hindered in sort of how we can give that experience and what experiences we can offer, it makes it more challenging for guests to come, and we know what that cycle creates.
Hi, my name is Steve Contursi. I am the proprietor of Arrow Branch Winery. Wow, that's a good question. It's challenging in the sense that I think there is a lot of wine out there, but I think at certain levels that sometimes when you're up on a level that there's fewer people buying the wine, but there's also fewer people dropping out of buying the wine. So I don't know if it's as recognizable up at what our market is compared to the market that's got to sell 1,000 pallets of wine. I mean, that's totally, like I said, that's a totally different business.
Different planet.
I think we're in. It's just kind of like our coin business. We deal in really super high quality United States coins, but I'm looking at some of the more generic coins that every coin dealer would have, and yeah, that market can crash or raise. But when you have coins that only a handful of people could ever possibly own in their life, okay, how'd the market drop? It's like it's kind of like that's my philosophy. It's not something I think that anybody going to business school would recommend following, but
No.
It's something I've done for 50 years. So and it seems to have worked for what we do. We just want to make or handle or do the best we possibly can do. And usually there's enough people out there that want the same thing.
Always, yeah.
Hi, my name is Elise Nerlove. I am the co-owner at Elkhorn Peak Cellars, specializing in Pinot Noir out in South Napa. If I could change anything about the wine industry, I would change the regulatory climate. I think the regulations that small producers are up against
that's true.
Are insane, both locally and at the state level, although the state did give us this major concession with AB 720. But even so, we have 35 days out of 365 days that we can open up to the public. And every day that we open up on those 35 days cost us, a couple $100. So it's a really challenging regulatory environment to exist in if you're a small guy. And the answer has been, well, just become a big guy. But that's the wrong mentality to have. As well as I do, if you go to France, the beautiful thing is the multi-generational small producers. You go, you sit in their kitchen, you drink wine, you go down to their cellars that are, 100 years old, and that's a really beautiful thing to preserve. And I just don't think that the regulatory environment is interested in preserving that, and I don't think that the small producers get the concessions they need. They don't get the attention they deserve. They're a different class of winery, and they should be treated as such.
Ken Nerlove, Elkhorn Peak Cellars.
If you could change something about the wine business, what would that one thing be?
If I could change something about the wine business, I don't think I would change anything. I kind of like it the way it is. It's a challenging business. It's agriculture based. There's a lot of art in making the wine, so you get to express the grapes you grow as far as the product that you make. And of course, the real challenge in the wine industry, which most people don't even think about, it's not growing the grapes and it's not making the wine. Anybody can do that. It's successfully penetrating the market. That is the tough part. And a challenge is always good. If it was easy, everybody would do it. There would be no challenge, no fun. So we're working hard at it. But when you work hard and you succeed, then it makes it really worthwhile.
Okay, I'm Peter Mondavi Jr., Charles Krug Winery here in Napa Valley. I think the most important thing, especially now, is a stronger unifying voice amongst California and United States wineries and winemakers and wine principals. I think there is we have the Wine Institute, which is trying to offer a unifying voice, but this is an interesting business in the sense it's very fragmented. We have something in the order of 10,000 wineries in the United States, from very, very small to very, very big. And unfortunately, the current environment could benefit from a unified voice from the industry, and that we really don't have a good unified voice at this point.
Have you ever been crazy enough to think about trying to be that voice or pull some of these people together? I mean, I realize it's a fairly major production.
Yeah, that's a huge production, and I haven't really thought of that much. I think there's other people and groups, because I think it's more than just an individual, that are better positioned for that.
Nolan Jones, Lava Cap Winery.
If there was one thing that you could change in the wine industry, what would that be?
I think accessibility. I think that's something we offer here as a region, both at Lava Cap and across El Dorado. Our prices are fair. I think it's $15 to come tasting here. It's not pretentious. It's a very open experience. You can bring your kids, you can bring your dog and have a picnic. You can bring outside food, but it's welcoming and it's not intimidating. And I think that's a barrier for a lot of young people getting into the industry. And so I'd like to see the industry as a whole open itself up to inexperienced consumers or people who are just learning about wine, and really make the experience enjoyable and fun. And a lot of it is just a history of wine labeling, the process. There's however many different grapes, and you talk to the average layperson and they're like, how do I choose? Like, where do I start? And that's a big barrier. So I think creating paths for enjoyable experiences or opportunity to try new wines. We make 28 different wines, and of those, I think only 3 or 4 are duplicates. So like, we do a handful of Zinfandels, but most of them are individual grapes, and we just try to make the whole experience fun and enjoyable and make something for everybody. So I think that's been my biggest frustration with the industry is A, pricing itself out of the average consumer, and B, making the experience of wine tasting or wine enjoying, even if it's not at a winery, a little bit out of reach for a lot of consumers. And so I would love to see wine take a place on the dinner table, every day of the week. And it shouldn't be something that's put in there are places for it, but I think wine should be enjoyed and shared and experienced. And it's not a museum piece. It's a part of life, and that should be enjoyed as such.
Stu Smith, Smith-Madrone Winery. So the question is, if I could do anything, change anything, huh? Well, I suppose the one thing that I would like to see, or the concept of the bubble, is that we would be able to compete with other wine-growing communities in the country, in the world, on an even basis. So we're back to politics. And that is that in Napa County, we are prohibited from holding weddings. In Sonoma County, in Lake County, in Mendocino County, in Suisun County, in the Central Coast, all the way to Southern California, and in fact the entire country, who grow grapes, whether they're vinifera grapes or American varietals, they can all hold weddings. And it's just an illustration of the burden that we have to climb over so that we can compete in the marketplace.
Why don't they let you have weddings?
Well, you'd have to ask them, because it makes no sense to us. And there's lots of different things like that. Tours and tastings is an example. Right. You can do tours and tastings in most of these other wine-growing regions without having to get a permit. And in Napa County, we're told we can only have so many visitors per day. Other people can have 1,000 or 2,000 visitors per day. Other wineries can have only 5 or 10 a day. It makes no sense. And I will say that the wine industry is the goose that laid the golden egg for Napa County. And all of the visitors who come here should have the opportunity to go wherever they want. But because of these limitations, they can only go to certain places, because otherwise the winery is in violation of their use permit. And it's just crazy. And while Sheldon is dealing with his deal, we're going to court with the county in federal court over just these kinds of issues?
I'm Gloria Bazan of Bazan Cellars. I would have target 20 years ago. I would have target the Gen X.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like Gen X we were left out. Back in the, when we started and when I started getting into the wine industry and all the marketing conferences that I attended, for the wine industry, because I wanted to learn, this was so new to me. The conversation was about the baby boomers and the millennials. And I kind of, it impacted to me because I'm a Gen X. It's like, why you're leaving us out? And I understand the pattern of consumption is different for every generation, and is why we break them down, right? When it comes to talk to marketing. But I feel like if we had accommodated our generation, or the Gen X, probably we will have more continuity with the new generation, like is the one that we are seeing now, that they prefer other beverages, that they prefer cocktails, that they prefer, other things instead of wine, because there was that gap. Looking back in history, I feel like we shouldn't skip any generation. We should market or do marketing for everyone, for every level. And if we now, as being in the Napa Valley, we only want the wine collector here, well, we are just denying ourselves, we are lying to ourselves, because we are not going to get that. You need to continue educating and bringing new generations in order to have continuity and progression.
Hi, I'm Tom Farella, Farella Vineyard here in Coombsville, Napa Valley. It's interesting because there is this split. Look at Burgundy versus Bordeaux. Fascinating.
Yeah.
In Burgundy, you walk to their front door and then they take you 3 stories down under their house and show you their cellar. Their hands are on. Their old people are still showing up to work every day. It's very personal. And I have not been to Bordeaux, and I love Great Bordeaux, but that's ascots and neckties. And so Napa has this similar kind of thing where we have a lot of people that are hardworking. I call it the blue-collar class of people in Napa Valley, which are wonderful and engaging and so fun and interesting and passionate. But the more you can imagine, the more of a hermit you are, which is kind of the iconic winemaker thing, is you're sitting on, those old pictures of the guy sitting on the stoop with a glass of wine staring at it going, what? And so that's more mine, I always call it winemaker on the top of the hill kind of thing. So that's a different creature than when you walk up and there's a hospitality staff and doors you go through that basically don't there's no way out. Mm. So there's this kind of approach now that's very business oriented, and elevated pricing and all of these sort of posturing things that don't make the wine any better. Yeah. And sometimes they make the wine worse. And to me, it's excruciating that Napa Valley is the best place in the world to grow Cabernet. There's no question about that. Our climate, our proximity to the San Francisco Bay, the ocean, it's sort of a maritime climate, but it's protected, it's sheltered. We have some heat spikes, we have some snow, but it is so just magical for Cabernet in particular. And yet, people are just letting it ripen too much. And so there's that old grousey thing that I'm one of the leading proponents. You mentioned Stu Smith. He'd probably chime in on this too. But it hurts me to see what people are doing to some of this fruit to get those points, and it hurts me that Napa, as the jewel of the planet for Cabernet, that sometimes they get very obtuse, and so that's really the thing, is that the focus really shifts very quickly, and then people will say, yeah, well, we're trying to lean it out and soften them, make them more approachable or more H-worthy or more this or more that, and then they still let it hang. Yeah. So, letting hang, yeah, it's tempting, but we're not making sorbet. We're making wine. And so wine chemistry, grape chemistry, the vine will tell you when the acid is going down and the sugar's going up, and you got to find that magic intersection and just go with it, not wait for color or flavor and all this stuff that is just purely subjective.
I'm Rebecca Chandry Griffin with Chandry Family Vineyards, day-to-day operations.
Ron Chandry, her brother. I think it's getting back to our roots. I think for a long time, I think Napa's taken advantage, not taken advantage, wrong word. I think taken for granted, I think, some of the customers, right? I think it's been driven by bottom line. It's how far can we push things? How far can we push price? How far can we push things? And I think just people are responding, you've gone too far. I can't afford that now. That's kind of out of my range. And I think we need to get back to more simplistic approaches, more simplistic things. Food, wine that goes with food and pairs well, and that's approachable, and that everyone can, it's not only a small segment of the population can afford it and can do it, right? Like, to me, we should be more things to more people and more familial. I think that will solve a lot of it, I think. I think right now we've priced a lot of our customers out of it, quite frankly.
I absolutely agree with everything you just said. And my response was, for us personally, not much to change, because that is who we are, right? Mm-hmm. My dad always wanted us to make efforts to keep our wines at an approachable price. Now, that being said, cost of goods, cost of farming, cost of land, cost of life goes up. But I'm going to say for $95 to get a Coombsville cab is still a bargain, right? So comparatively. And that was important as a family when we started this business, that people can try our wine, because they didn't know who we were or what we were doing. And so we needed people to be willing to spend their hard-earned money to take a flight on us. And I think that we have always had a tremendous amount of gratitude for that. So we think about that in how we approach. I think other people should do more thinking.
So my name is Ridgely Evers. I'm the founder of both Devero Wines in Healdsburg, California, and Avivo Wines in Lodi, California. Well, what I'm setting out to change with Avivo is California viticulture, because I think we can make better wine with significantly lower impact on the planet, that meets the one standard and the only standard that matters, which is deliciousness. Principal duty of a wine is to be delicious. If it's not delicious, stop talking. Yeah. Right? And we're going to open source our financials. We're open sourcing all of our processes, because I want the rest of the industry to see, hey, we've got great margins, and we're putting carbon in the ground, and we're making killer wine. Because that's how you affect change at scale.
This is Michael Honig. So let's talk about the things you need to change at this particular point, if you can bring a few of those up.
Yeah, well, it was, the idea was really, we're all in this together. And the year before, I kind of did a lot of the press folks we have in our database say, hey, look, it's basically just saying that, we're all in a tough industry. No one wants to pay for writing or content. The same way the wine industry struggles. I kind of say, let's all keep, let's all kind of be together and hopefully do better next year. And this year was really more, as I travel around the country, and I travel, 3 weeks a month, is seeing the differences where some markets are up, some markets are down, and there's no consistency. It's like the tale of two cities. And that was, so I kind of sent out the note to people, say, what are you seeing? You talk to wine people all day, you're doing critiquing your wine, and it was fascinating what came back, but I think some of the challenges, and I can bring up a number of them. One of the things that, pricing is certainly an issue. I mean, that's something. Then you've got the macro problem that we as an industry can't fix, which is consumption. And you've got Ozempic and the people that are doing that, those inhibitors. You have people that use cannabis versus maybe going out for a cocktail. You have people that don't drink at all. So we're facing those challenges. And then also, I think the industry has just done a terrible job of talking to the next generation. generation. As I said, I'm 64. I think you and I are peers. The Napa Valley, which I'm a very proud partner and member of and peer of in this community, I love this community, but I think we've really done a great job, and we've nailed the 60-year-old white guy demographic. We got them dialed in. Well, that's not our future. And what I'm really trying to do is create a generational business. So one of the things we're talking as a brand, but I don't see the industry doing this, is how do we talk to the next generation? And again, that came back as, how do we talk to people and not talk to them like we're talking down to them? And I'll give you an example. The other day I was at a consumer tasting. A young woman comes to my table, and she looks at, I have wine, and they had all kinds of alcohol beverages at this tasting. And she says, I don't drink wine. And, I struck up a conversation. I said, well, why don't you drink wine? And her comment was, I don't understand it. I go, okay, well, so what do you drink? I drink gin. Oh, okay. What do you know about gin? 0. Her perception was, though, because she didn't know the bottle, she didn't know what a varietal was, she didn't know how to open it necessarily, that she just had to not get involved at all. And I think that's where we've done a disservice, talking about scores and terroir and all the things that are really valid, and certainly valid for the people that really care about those things. But the average person that just wants to have a nice Sauvignon Blanc with their girlfriend at the pool could give it, well, I won't swear.
You can swear.
Give a darn. How about that? And I think that's where we really are missing the boat. And it's not about the 60-year-old and that generation. It's really the millennials and the of age generation before them, or after them, I should say, that are really don't seem to be that excited about our beverage.
Hi, my name's Jim Pinella from Farong Wine.
What else would you do to change things? It's a question I've been asking on this particular trip.
I seek that out a lot because I want to remain respectful to those that have built what we have, but there's pain, and I think what I've been trying to do is find that place in the conversation where we can build from, and I'm not there yet, but it's I would say that's I have many conversations going with different areas within the industry with the idea to bring it together or find that person that's already bringing it there. Like, for example, there's a gentleman in town called George Kessler, where on his own dime, and he's not a winemaker, he brings together people of like minds, and so that they can collaborate and try to build those conversations.
My name is Ed Felice, and a winemaker for J.L. Wood.
If you're able to make any specific change or something you'd like to see different in the industry, what would that be?
It's happening. It's happening, and it's unfortunate because there's going to be a lot of people, hurt. It's going to be some bloodletting here. There's vineyards coming out. There's labels going away, and the whole entire vineyard being pulled. Or just left to go to seed, and which is tragic. Right. So that's happening. But what's happening is it's unfortunate, but it's kind of like a process of natural selection. It's going to be a tough time, and grapes, unfortunately, aren't always planted in areas where they do best, or even should be planted. In fact. And some of those will be coming out because it's not profitable. You can't grow. At least not. You can grow and you can ripen, but will it be the type of wine that we're talking about, that we really want to be excellent, game changer type wine? Well, probably not. So it's happening. There's going to be less grape, but better quality. I think that's where we're headed, and that's where for the consumer it's going to be greater, I believe, because the quality of what he has is going to be better, and some of these astronomical, in some cases artificially high prices are going to be coming down.